I'm going to show you how to perfect your hammer-ons in 4 easy steps with an exercise. Welcome to Banjo Quest. Now before we get started, I did want to mention, I haven't even told my patrons this yet over on the Banjo Quest platform, but out of 228,000 creators on Patreon, Banjo Quest and me and the Banjo Quest community was chosen to become one of 200 Patreon ambassadors. That's incredible. It blows my mind that we are on Patreon's radar at all. And it means that Banjo Quest and what we do there represents the best of what Patreon has to offer. And it's not just an accomplishment that I'm really proud of, but I want the Banjo Quest community to be proud of it as well. Thank you to all the patrons out there who have been supporting the Banjo Quest since we started in 2018. It's a really special thing, and I just can't wait to see what the future brings to all of us. All right, let's get started on the hammer-on. First of all, what is a hammer-on? A hammer-on is very simply when we use our fretting hand to drive into a string from a height and activate a tone in an impacting motion against a fret. That's a hammer-on. Usually, it's accompanied by a downstroke first, and I will drive the fretting finger into the string, creating a tone. The difficulty of a hammer-on in the clawhammer style is that we've got to figure out how to use our fretting hand to create a tone that keeps up with the massive power that a normal, good clawhammer stroke contains. That's one of our challenges here, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. The first thing I want to teach you about the hammer-on is how to time it. The hammer-on is a way to deliver an 8th note pair of notes, so both the initiating, the origin note, and the destination note, the hammer-on itself, needs to be of equal time value. So a convenient thing for clawhammerists to do is to time the hammer-on with the upstroke. And I'm going to show you how that happens now. I'm tuned to sawmill. I'm going to hammer on my 3rd fret, 3rd string, for those of you who are keeping score. So I do a big, nice, normal, vanilla downstroke on my open 3rd string. And on the upstroke, the next upstroke, I drop the hammer with my left hand. Altogether, that looks like this. And if I add a ditty in between those things, I can build it into a musical phrase. Doesn't sound like much, but you add a little speed. Starts to sound musical. Just make sure you're timing your drop of the hammer with your fretting hand with the upstroke motion of the right. It should almost look like to your audience that you are pulling, extracting the hammer-on sound with your striking hand. Number 2 tip for making a powerful, robust hammer-on is let other fingers get recruited into the motion in your fretting hand. So we are evolved to not separate out individual fingers. We lose a lot of our power and strength if we try to isolate these fingers. So instead of isolating, instead of trying to single out a finger, let the entire hand get recruited in the hammer-on process. Check this out. I'm going to go back to our hammer-on the 3rd fret, 3rd string, and I'm letting multiple fingers, look at the ring finger and the index, pinky's kind of not doing much, but I'm letting other fingers get recruited in the motion. That gives me a lot of power on that hammer drop and makes for a very loud, full-sounding hammer-on. Now don't try to drive with the whole hand. That would be exaggerating what I'm talking about. This is an act of letting things happen versus forcing things to happen. Number 3 tip to make beautiful hammer-ons is don't use the pads of your fingers. Use the ends of your fingers vertically into the strings. So if we do this pinchy motion, it's going to get a slappy sound. You're not going to have enough power to drive into those strings. Versus getting a nice steep angle, really, I'm fretting into this first big bone of my thumb here when I'm in my neck grip, and I'm really driving in vertically, very steep angle, ends of fingers. And the only way I can do that is because I keep my fretting nails short. So here's a bonus tip in number 3. Keep your fretting nails really short. I cannot tell you how many lessons have been interrupted by long fingernails on the fretting hand that just get in the way of that nice steep angle. Keep them trim, get steep, and you're going to immediately feel a difference in your hammer-ons. Number 4 tip for beautiful hammer-ons is get that finger close to the fret. I like to think of a trampoline. If you bounce in the middle of a trampoline, if you bounce with enough force, you can drive the trampoline to the earth. But if you bounce on the edge of a trampoline, you cannot get that thing to budge. So same principle. The middle of the fret is the middle of our trampoline. We don't want to bounce there. We want to get close, 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 almost touching that next fret and drive in with multiple fingers. That way you will not, in your newfound strength and force of your hammer-on, you will not inadvertently drive your notes sharp. That is the danger of fretting in the middle of the fret. And you have to exert more force for an equal amount of volume for your hammer-on. So get close to those frets, nestle right up, get comfy, and drive in vertically. And then you can see fretting these hammer-ons as kind of an accuracy game when you're really starting to refine your phrasing and refine your technique. See how close and consistently you can be to each fret when you're doing your hammer-ons. All right, we are not done. Grab a banjo. We are tuned to sawmill. Let's work on an exercise together that is designed to get you thinking about hammer-ons. This also happens to be pulled directly out of some of the phrases that we are learning for a tune that I am teaching over on Patreon called Little Pink. Beautiful tune. I just performed it on my YouTube channel. If you're interested, I'm teaching it over on Banjo Quest. And I'm plugging in some of these ideas that we're drawing from the phrasing of Little Pink. I like to do that. I like to see what the tune has to teach us. All right, let me give you the bird's eye view of the pattern, and then I will describe it, and then we're going to loop it together slowly to try to enact some of these new habits for the hammer-on. Again. Let's work on this, but we're not going to go fast. I want to keep this slow. I want you to be able to focus on what's happening with your fretting hand, with your right hand, timing everything and enacting all of these new habits that we've talked about today. It's a beautiful way to crystallize this stuff and get it into muscle memory. I'm going to give us a 2 count. 1, 2. Speed this up. 1, 2. Really listen to how that hammer-on is happening. Don't just turn off the brain. You've got to be focused, deep listening skills, honed in on what's going on with that fretting hand. Listen, listen, listen. Let's speed it up. 1, 2. And you can take this faster and faster as you go, but I would caution you that if you're trying to perfect that hammer-on, get the mechanics right, it's better to take your time and go really slow so you can pay attention to the details, burn it into muscle memory before you bring this up to tune speed. All right, I hope that helps. I hope this helps you get better at your hammer-ons and clawhammer in general, and I will see you next time on Banjo Quest.